Stub Clubbers? Welcome back to 25 Days of Disney. We're on day 3 of our journey, and we're going to be talking about some really interesting stuff.
Many of you might not know this, but there were different things that went on in the Disney studio that possibly could have shut it down forever, and then we would not have had any of the animation movies that came after a certain time period. So we're actually going to talk about, which is very strange that it's this movie, but we're going to talk about how 101 Dalmatians changed the Walt Disney Animation Studio. So we need to back up a little bit before that. Many of you might not know this, the Walt Disney Animation Studio almost shut down. What was going on was a lot of the animation movies were not really making out the budget like they hoped to. It wasn't financially successful. Some of it had to deal with World War II and other stuff that was going on during that time period.
People were spending their money on other things.
One of the big things is that Sleeping Beauty really tanked with the studio.
Yeah, that one...
Yeah. So when it came to Sleeping Beauty, they spent a very big budget on it with the scenes, everything that was really involved when it comes to animation, doing all of the beautiful work that they did.
It was a gorgeous movie, but at the same time, I could have fallen asleep myself.
And it wasn't only just Sleeping Beauty that really tanked in the studio. Some of you might not know this as well. With Lady and the Tramp, they actually went over budget with that one because they actually had to go back and fix some stuff or do something. There was technical difficulties. So unfortunately, the Disney company, even from that, lost some money. So they had to figure out what they were going to do next for the Disney company so they wouldn't have to close its doors for animation. Not the whole studio, just the animation portion, because they weren't financially being very successful in that.
Animators cost money. They do good work. They deserve to be paid, but they're expensive.
So there is something actually called xerography. Xerography is actually what came in with 101 Dalmatians and actually changed the studio for a good number of years, for over 20 years. They're actually using it. So you're probably wondering, okay, so what is xerography? So if you dissect the word, you actually have Xerox at the beginning. So Xeroxing, of course, is the process of copying and actually was going on for a while before World War II began. And in the 1950s, it was actually becoming very popular in the business world then to be using Xerox in their offices.
Xerox is still around today. If you see, work in an office building, even I do, you see Xerox photocopy paper.
When it came to talking about xerography, it was never done before on cells or anything to do with film like what the Disney company was using. It was just basically done on paper. So the final process allowed animator drawings to actually be printed directly onto the cells before, when they had to just keep drawing it over and over and over again. And that actually what was costing the Disney company a lot of money.
Yeah, time equals money.
So what it did was it freed Disney artists from inking every single cell for drawing over and over again. So that was a big, huge plus because that is what cost the company a lot of money when it came to Sleeping Beauty beforehand and why it kind of tanked financially. So think of it this way. So in 101 Dalmatians, all of the dogs in there, instead of them redrawing like 99 or 101 Dalmatians over and over again, they were just able to copy the drawings over and over again, which saved them a lot of time and a lot of money, which was really important because that's what was financially what was costing them. They were spending all of this time just doing that instead of doing a more quicker process, if you would say.
Yeah, and if you remember in the 101 Dalmatians, a lot of the puppies look the same except for maybe like a little bit of a chubby one. My nose is cold, my toes are cold.
So basically with the xerography, what many people, some people like and some people don't, is you actually get to see the original pencil markings on the actual drawing. So there are some people who say, hey, don't watch 101 Dalmatians on Blu-ray because you are going to see all of those definite lines, that very sketchiness that you see that goes on for about a good 20 years with the Disney company.
There's quite a difference between pre-90, Disney movies and the 90s Disney movies. Each era has their own differences.
And so what on was that with the Xeroxing, it was not in color, it was just in black and white. So for many years with those 20-year span, you are going to have all of your Disney characters outlined in black. With Sleeping Beauty, though, what they did was in certain scenes, it was all going to be outlined with different colors. So when you are looking at pre the 101 Dalmatians, you are going to see you're going to see more delicate lines. You're going to see the color. But for this huge time period, you're only going to be seeing these some of them are thick, bold lines. You're going to see these extra sketch marks. So this is where you're going to get that very sketchy look that you have for over 20 years, that it's a debate where some people like it and some people don't. It's all preference, honestly.
Yeah, it depends on how closely you're looking as well.
So there's actually there's an error actually in 101 Dalmatians. Since they were able to copy so easily, there is a scene that instead of having 99 Dalmatians, there's actually 150. I don't know who counted all of that, but apparently because photocopying was so easy that there's a scene or something in the movie that they do make the mistake, so there's not 99, there's 150. So that's something kind of interesting.
I mean, once you have more than 20, it's kind of hard to keep track of all of them.
So when it came to xerography, another aspect that got pulled into it was that they had to go away a little bit from having their animation look a little bit more realistic. So what you would see in Lady and the Tramp. So this is where we get the transition also in Disney animation, where the animals are looking more cartoonish. They're being more, they are animated, but they're going to be looking more cartoonish, and this has to do with the xerography. And because they're doing the copying over and over again, there's something to do with where they had to steer away from the realistic part of it.
Yeah, basically they end up looking more like a caricature rather than, just a nice drawing of an animal.
So this actually went on with a majority of the animated animals up until Beauty and the Beast, which was in 1991. So Beauty and the Beast was 1991, and 101 Dalmatians was 1961. So if you think of this whole huge chunk where they started going away from all of the realistic animation with the animals, that's a big, huge chunk of time. So there's a lot of stuff that 101 Dalmatians really did change the animation studio. And so xerography actually was in place for many years. It went from 101 Dalmatians, and it stopped right before The Little Mermaid. So that's that whole huge time period. Yeah. So you're going to have The Sword in the Stone, The Jungle Book, The Aristocats, Robin Hood, and The Rescuers, just name a few. That's going to be in that huge bunch of using that xerography, and how basically them flopping financially, them figuring out this way to make the Xerox copies on their animation cells helped save the studio.
I mean, during that time, movies went boom, 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 boom. They were able to produce a lot more in a shorter amount of time, thus for making more money. So, Stub Clubbers, we are going to get into some of these movies a little bit more. Hopefully we gave you some insight into some history about the Disney studios. But continue watching for more 25 Days of Disney, and we hope to see you soon.